a judge, had put a stay on this Alien Enemies Act powers that Trump says that he is granting himself as far as deporting people inside this country. And they had a group of Venezuelans they put on a flight, and the stay happened when there's some debate about this, but maybe the flight is in air, and they went through with it anyway and said, well, it's over international waters, so we don't have to respond to this, and they don't seem to be having interest in responding to it anyway. So that's like the biggest news on the immigration front. But at the biggest picture, you talked to Aaron Reichland-Melnick on our Bulwark on Sundays over on Substack, which I really recommend for people who want to get nerdy on what is happening right now with immigration. But what struck you from that conversation as kind of the biggest picture state of play?
Yeah, I think it was a good conversation, not because of me, but he really explained well, I think, the bigger picture, but also sort of the nuts and bolts of how some of it works. I mean, just on this thing, this invocation of the Alien Enemies Act is almost being slid over sometimes because of the sort of defiance, let's just call it, or evasion of the court order, and certainly an attitude of contempt towards the court order. But the invocation of this act is nuts. I mean, and that itself should not, and I believe will not, one hopes will not stand up in court. It's been used 3 times: the War of 1812, World War I, World War II. It's for actually about alien enemies in war. Some German saboteur shows up on the coast, on the West Coast or something. But anyway, they had to invent a fake war with this Venezuelan gang to justify this. Now, just recall, Trump already has pretty broad power to hold, detain, and to deport people who are not here lawfully. And if you find people involved in gang activities, you can, of course, prosecute them just under the normal criminal laws of the United States. You can also detain and deport them. And these people were being detained. I think it's really worth making this point that they weren't like roaming around free in the streets of the U.S., but he wants to deport them to El Salvador anyway. So that itself is outrageous. But on the bigger picture, 2 points. The rule of law is shattered in so many ways in the immigration area, or pushed or stretched or distended. And you could say in any one of these cases, some of these cases, well, it's kind of possibly plausible, but you put it all together. They want no one coming into the country, basically, almost. I mean, that sounds like crazily overstated, but it's not that overstated. Certainly no one coming and staying. They're not even crazy about people coming for a while. If there's some tiny risk, they'll stay. Even if their overstay would be because they're hiking around on some trail for an extra week. I mean, right? We're really in a kind of the hostility to foreigners. And I think one point Aaron makes very well is Trump wants to convey the impression that this is Fortress America, that we are hostile to all these people who want to come here. Not that we have to be a little more careful about who we take in, not that we took in an awful lot of people in the last 30, 40 years, and we have to reduce some of those numbers, not that it's not good politics or good policy to not know exactly who's here, and there's some undocumented people we don't know about. But he wants us to look as if we're hostile to immigrants. Not too crazy about visitors either, but hostile to immigrants, which is really jaw-dropping for the United States. Maybe we did this a little bit, I guess, in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. I mean, those laws were very restrictionist, but the degree to which Trump relishes and the Trump people and the whole administration, and now people like Rubio, it's really unbelievable. I mean, that Rubio, who was a very pro-immigration guy, famously that gang of whatever it was in 2013, and who was literally told a very affecting story about his life as the son of immigrants, of refugees, seeking asylum in the U.S. and getting asylum in the U.S. in Florida from Cuba, that he's just fine with all this. I mean, asylum is gone. The refugee resettlement program is gone. So again, I think what Aaron brings home is just the breadth of the hostility to any notion of the U.S. as a land of refuge, a land of asylum, or a land of hope and opportunity for people from other countries.
So the CEO of the Immigrant Defenders Law Center, that's IMMDEF on social media if you want to check it out. This is what she writes. So we're taking her word on this, but I want to actually explain this case in detail. She writes this: our client fled Venezuela last year and came to the U.S. to seek asylum. He has a strong asylum claim. He was detained at entry because ICE alleged his tattoos are gang-related. They are absolutely not. Our client worked in the arts in Venezuela. He's LGBTQ. His tattoos are benign. But ICE submitted photos of his tattoos as evidence he's Tren de Aragua. We last spoke to our client on Thursday before he was supposed to have a hearing in immigration court, but ICE didn't bring him to the hearing. The government attorney had no info about why he was not there. The judge reset the hearing for Monday, today. We've been trying to contact our client ever since. This morning, yesterday, Sunday morning, he disappeared from the online detainee locator. Our client came to the U.S. seeking protection, but he's spent months in ICE prisons, been falsely accused of being a gang member, and today he's been forcefully transferred, we believe, to El Salvador. We are horrified tonight thinking about what might happen to him now. If this is even in the ballpark of being true, these people are fucking evil. They're evil. Like, this is the fundamental part of what America is. Like, that we had welcomed people. Like, if this is true, this is a gay man fleeing persecution in Venezuela, comes to the border. Maybe you could decide that whatever, we need new asylee rules and that doesn't count and he doesn't count for asylum or whatever, but that we would do this and smear him and impugn him and put him in a fucking camp and then send him to this dystopian prison colony in El Salvador in a totally different country. It's fucking insane. It is insane. And I saw this thing from a French member of French Parliament, Raphael Glucksmann. He said, "Give us back the Statue of Liberty. We gave it to you as a gift, but apparently you despise it. So it'll be just fine back here at home." That's where I'm at reading this story. Give it the fuck back. Doge can take care of this. Elon Musk can put that on a fucking boat back to France. Because if we were gonna treat this person like this, there's no we're welcoming the tired and poor and huddled masses. There's no yearning to be free here. We're going to send you to a fucking authoritarian, dystopian penal camp in El Salvador where you're going to get beat and abused and treated like shit and who knows what else, just because you happen to be a Venezuelan that wanted freedom in this country. It is just appalling. So I don't know if you have anything else.
No, it's horrifying. And look, if you said, look, we have to detain him and it's going to take a couple of weeks where we check out his story on the tattoos before he gets the temporary protected status, which incidentally Venezuelans are supposed to get, I believe, if they flee the Venezuelan authoritarian regime. But, okay, that would be, and maybe the conditions under which he's held aren't great. And that's, that's kind of the messiness of our immigration system and of the border or something, anyway. But the idea that we're sending him to this horrible penal colony in El Salvador is beyond belief. And again, why? What was the rush? The guy was detained. I mean, he wasn't out on the streets being a member, allegedly a member of some gang. So it's purely about the performative cruelty and the, I guess they think, deterrent effect. And, Trump feeling good about J.D. Vance being able to go on Twitter and say, we're deporting the criminals. And the Democratic judges, I don't know if he says judges, but the Democrats want to keep them here or bring them in or keep them here or something like that. I mean, so it's really using these people as pawns for a very low political end. It's really horrifying.
It's fucking evil. And it's like, J.D. Vance, it's sick. Like, who are you? Like, what are you? You're religious. You're quoting people about you're trying to quote Ordo Amoris, about how we care about each other, and you're doing this to this. Like, imagine being this person. Assuming it is reported as true. They're like fleeing Venezuela. They make the long trek to America. They think they might have the opportunity for freedom. They end up getting put into a cell. And next thing you know, you're on a plane with actual gang members. Because, by the way, I assume there are actual gang members also on this plane that we are sending. And I think we probably shouldn't be sending them to fucking El Salvador and paying El Salvador a fee for this. But besides the point, okay, we're sending some fucking gang members. So you're on this plane with like these violent, evil gang members, and then you're gonna be you get your hair shaved and like you get treated like you are the fucking dreg of humanity by some like drunk on power, like El Salvadoran, like RoboCop, the way that they're like dragging these people around. Like I just imagine being that person. Like, you are in hell. Like this is the worst thing you could possibly do to somebody.